Hey there fellow gardeners, welcome back to Soil Secret Studio. If you're watching this video, chances are you've experienced the maddening waiting game that is traditional composting. You toss in your kitchen scraps, layer your browns and greens, and then you wait. And wait. And wait some more. Months crawl by while you check your bin hopefully, only to find partially decomposed materials that aren't quite ready for your garden beds. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on a composting secret that sounds almost too good to be true, but I promise you, it's completely legitimate and backed by science. We're talking about turning months of waiting into just weeks of anticipation, and the key ingredient is probably sitting in your pantry right now. Let's talk about what's really happening inside your compost pile. When you build a compost heap, you're essentially creating a thriving metropolis for billions of microscopic workers. These bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms are the true heroes of decomposition, and like any workforce, they perform at their peak when given the right fuel and working conditions. The problem with most compost piles is that these microbes are operating at half capacity, slowly munching through your materials because they're working with limited resources. This is where the magic of simple sugars comes into play, and it's going to revolutionize how you think about composting. When you introduce readily available sugars like brown sugar or molasses into your compost pile, you're essentially providing your microbial workforce with premium rocket fuel. These simple carbohydrates are incredibly easy for bacteria to consume and convert into energy, triggering what I like to call a microbial feeding frenzy. Within hours of adding a sugar solution, your pile's internal temperature will begin climbing as billions of bacteria reproduce at exponential rates, each one generating heat as a byproduct of their metabolism. This rapid temperature increase is exactly what transforms a sluggish compost pile into a decomposition powerhouse. The heat itself becomes a catalyst, breaking down tough plant fibers and organic matter at speeds you've probably never witnessed in your backyard composting efforts. The science gets even more interesting when you understand that this high-temperature phase isn't just about speed. When your compost pile reaches temperatures between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit, you're creating conditions that kill weed seeds, eliminate plant pathogens, and break down materials that would normally take months to decompose. The thermophilic bacteria that thrive in these hot conditions are phenomenally efficient decomposers, capable of transforming kitchen scraps and yard waste into rich, dark humus in a fraction of the time that mesophilic bacteria working at lower temperatures could achieve. Now that you understand why this works, let's dive into exactly how to implement this technique in your own backyard. The foundation of rapid composting still relies on the classic principles you've probably heard before, but we're going to optimize every single factor to create the perfect storm of decomposition. Start by gathering your materials and chopping everything into pieces no larger than a few inches across. This step is absolutely crucial because you're dramatically increasing the surface area available for microbial colonization. Your brown to green ratio should hover around 3 parts brown materials to 1 part green materials by volume. Browns include dried leaves, shredded cardboard, straw, wood chips, and newspaper, while greens encompass fresh grass clippings, kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, and fresh plant trimmings. This ratio provides the perfect balance of carbon for energy and nitrogen for microbial growth. If you've got too many greens, your pile will become slimy and develop an ammonia smell as excess nitrogen escapes. Too many browns, and decomposition will crawl along at a frustratingly slow pace despite your best efforts with sugar activation. Here's where we introduce the game-changing sugar solution. Mix 2 tablespoons of brown sugar or molasses with 4 cups of warm water and add a packet of baker's yeast to really supercharge the mixture. Let this combination sit for about 15 minutes until it develops a foamy head, proving that your yeast is active and ready to populate your compost pile with an additional army of decomposers. Pour this solution over your layered materials, using a pitchfork or shovel to mix it thoroughly throughout the pile. The goal is to distribute these sugars evenly so that microbial activity explodes uniformly rather than creating hotspots while other areas remain dormant. Alternatively, You can simply sprinkle dry brown sugar between layers as you build your pile, though the liquid method ensures more even distribution and helps with moisture management. Moisture management deserves special attention because it's one of the most common reasons compost piles fail to heat up properly. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge when you grab a handful and squeeze it. You want to see a few drops of moisture without water streaming out. Too dry, and microbial activity grinds to a halt because these organisms need water to function. Too wet, and you'll drown your aerobic bacteria while creating anaerobic pockets that smell terrible and decompose extremely slowly. Check moisture levels every few days during the initial hot phase, and don't hesitate to add water if things are drying out from all that microbial heat generation. Oxygen is the lifeblood of rapid composting, and this is where many gardeners lose the race before they even get started. Those hard-working thermophilic bacteria we discussed earlier are aerobic organisms, meaning they absolutely require oxygen to survive and thrive. Without regular aeration, your pile will shift to anaerobic decomposition, which is not only much slower, but also produces those notorious rotten egg smells that give composting a bad reputation among neighbors. The solution is simple but, it does require some commitment. Turn your pile every 5 to 7 days, or whenever you notice the internal temperature beginning to drop from its peak. Turning involves using a pitchfork to completely remix your pile, moving materials from the outside edges toward the center, and bringing the center materials outward. This serves multiple purposes beyond just introducing oxygen. You're redistributing the microbial populations, exposing fresh materials to colonization, and making sure that all portions of your pile experience the beneficial high-temperature phase. Yes, this is more labor-intensive than building a pile and ignoring it for 6 months. But we're talking about the difference between finished compost in 3 to 4 weeks versus 3 to 4 months. That's a trade-off most serious gardeners are willing to make, especially once you experience the satisfaction of harvesting your first batch of sugar-accelerated compost. During the first week after building and activating your pile, check the internal temperature daily using a compost thermometer. You should see temperatures climbing rapidly, potentially reaching 150 degrees Fahrenheit or higher within just a few days. This is exactly what you want. When temperatures begin declining despite adequate moisture levels, that's your signal to turn the pile and reintroduce oxygen. After your first turn, you might want to add another sugar boost, especially if you're incorporating fresh materials. A smaller application of about 1 tablespoon of sugar per gallon of compost material, dissolved in water and mixed throughout, will keep that microbial engine running at peak efficiency. The compost you'll harvest using this method isn't just faster, it's often superior in quality to traditionally made compost. The sustained high temperatures break down complex organic compounds more thoroughly, creating a finished product that's incredibly dark, crumbly, and rich in humus. When you squeeze a handful, it should hold together briefly before crumbling apart, with an earthy forest floor smell that tells you it's biologically mature and ready for your garden. There should be no recognizable pieces of the original materials remaining, just uniform, dark brown to black gold that your plants will absolutely thrive in. One common concern I hear is whether sugar-enhanced compost will attract pests or create problems in the garden. The reality is that by the time your compost is finished, virtually all of those simple sugars have been consumed and converted into microbial biomass and heat. There's nothing sweet or attractive to pests remaining in the final product. The high temperatures reached during processing actually make this compost less likely to harbor pest eggs or disease organisms compared to cool composting methods. As for plant benefits, the microbial diversity and nutrient density of rapid hot compost is exceptional. You're creating a living soil amendment packed with beneficial bacteria and fungi that will improve your soil structure, water retention, and nutrient availability while helping your plants resist diseases and environmental stress. If you're ready to stop waiting and start reaping the rewards of truly fast composting, I challenge you to try this sugar-powered method with your next pile. Document your results, pay attention to your internal temperatures, and watch the transformation happen in real time. Don't forget to subscribe to Soil Secret Studio for more advanced gardening techniques that actually work, and share this video with any fellow gardeners who are tired of the composting waiting game. Drop a comment below telling me about your composting experiences, and let's build a community of gardeners who refuse to accept slow results when rapid success is possible. Your garden is waiting for that rich, finished compost, so let's give it exactly what it needs.